I never actually meant for my family to find out how successful I'd become. For the longest time, I let them believe I was just barely scraping by, mostly because it was easier than dealing with their constant judgment. Every time I tried something new, they rolled their eyes and told me I was wasting my potential. But life has a way of throwing curveballs, especially when you're not ready. And that year's Morrison family barbecue? Oh, it turned into one hell of a plot twist. It was late summer, the kind of humid evening where the air clings to your skin and everything smells like burgers and charcoal. Our backyard looked like something out of a landscaping magazine. My parents are oddly proud of that. Relatives milled around with flimsy paper plates and red Solo cups, laughing a little too loudly. "Well, look who's here, Emily Carter," my mom announced as I walked up, her voice tinged with that oh-so-familiar disappointment. I was holding a small bowl of pasta salad like it was a peace offering, still typing up memos. "Sweetheart?" she asked. I tugged at the hem of my plain sundress, intentionally boring, and gave her a polite grin. At 33, I'd perfected the art of playing the part they expected, harmless, underachieving Emily Carter. "Administrative assistant over at Thomson," I said, sticking to the script. That's when Chloe Bennett showed up, strutting like a walking LinkedIn update. Her designer bag bounced on her arm, and her highlights probably had their own zip code. "Mom, guess what? The CEO stopped by my office today to personally congratulate me on my latest campaign," she gushed. I almost laughed. I'd read that email this morning. Turns out, it wasn't the CEO who complimented her, it was her direct boss. But Chloe Bennett never let facts get in the way of a good humble brag. "That's amazing, sweetheart," Mom beamed, totally forgetting I existed for a second. "You've always had drive." Her eyes flicked to me and then quickly away, like I was some kind of sore spot. But here's the thing, I wasn't just an admin at Thomson Industries, I owned the damn company. 3 years earlier, I bought it through a maze of shell companies and anonymous transactions. No one, not even my family, had a clue. The previous owner had been desperate to sell, and I had quietly built a fortune through smart investing and sharp business moves. Thomson was just another gem in my growing portfolio. Staying anonymous meant no pressure, no awkward requests from cousins, no one asking for handouts, just me running a $500 million enterprise from the shadows. While my family thought I was their biggest letdown, Aunt Evelyn stumbled over with a wine glass sloshing dangerously in her hand. "Emily Carter, have you ever considered taking a business course or two? You might move up from reception if you tried." I had 2 MBAs and a PhD in business strategy, but sure. "I'm comfortable where I am, Aunt Evelyn," I said calmly. "That's the problem," my dad chimed in, burger grease dripping onto his polo. "No ambition. Your sister's raking in 6 figures and you're still sorting mail." If only he knew. I'd made 8 figures the year before. Chloe Bennett, basking in the attention, added, "Actually, we've got a big meeting coming up. The CEO is finally showing up in person. Everyone's freaking out." She had no idea. I'd finally decided it was time to come out of the shadows and take a more visible role. Thomson Industries had thrived under my leadership, even though no one knew who I was. But things were changing, and it was time. "Do you even get to see the CEO?" my mom asked, her voice syrupy sweet with faux concern. "I mean, from your little cubicle?" I was about to respond when a sleek black Tesla rolled into the driveway, and my heart nearly stopped. I recognized it immediately. Nathan Reed. He was Chloe Bennett's boss, and one of the very few people who actually knew I ran the company. Chloe Bennett straightened up, suddenly self-conscious. "Oh my God, that's my supervisor." "What's he doing here?" she whispered. Nathan Reed stepped out, looking polished in laid-back weekend wear that probably cost more than my parents' mortgage. He scanned the crowd until his eyes locked on mine, and then he smiled. "Madam Sue," he called, walking right toward me. "Didn't expect to see you at this barbecue." My dad's burger slipped right out of his hand. Chloe Bennett's face went ghost white. My mom's wine glass hit the patio and shattered like a firework. I took a deep breath, smoothed out my bland little dress, and smiled. "Hi, Nathan Reed. Glad you could make it to my family's barbecue." The backyard went dead quiet. Years of pretending to be someone else, gone in an instant. I could practically hear everyone recalibrating what they thought they knew about me. Chloe Bennet was the first to react, though her voice came out in this weird little squeak. "You're the CEO." "No way, that can't be true. You're just a secretary." I looked right at her and kept my cool smile in place. "Actually, Chloe, I'm your boss. I've owned Dalton Enterprises for the last 3 years." My dad's face turned a deep, almost alarming shade of purple. "Is this some kind of joke?" he barked. That's when Nathan Reed stepped forward, his calm, authoritative voice cutting through the tension. "No joke at all, sir. Your daughter's one of the sharpest business leaders I've ever worked with. Under her leadership, Dalton Enterprises has tripled its market value." My mom staggered back and grabbed a patio chair like she might actually faint. But you bring that cheap grocery store pasta salad to every cookout," she stammered. "You live in that little apartment. You wear stuff from Target." I stood a little taller then, letting just a little bit of the real me peek through. "I choose to live simply, Mom. That doesn't mean I have to." The murmurs started almost instantly, rippling through the relatives like a rumor in a high school hallway. Aunt Trish was frantically tapping away on her phone, probably Googling Dalton Enterprises. Uncle Jerry spit out some of his beer mid-sip, and Chloe Bennet? She looked like she might actually pass out. Nathan Reed suddenly realized the chaos he'd just set off and cleared his throat awkwardly. "Apologies if I overstepped, Ms. Sinclair. I recognized the address from our archived files and figured I'd swing by to talk about the pending Montrose acquisition." Before I could say anything, Chloe Bennet practically exploded. Her voice went high-pitched with disbelief and fury. "This is insane. I've been busting my ass for 3 years trying to climb the corporate ladder, and you've just been what? Spying on me? Laughing behind my back?" I looked her square in the eyes. "No, Chloe Bennet. I've been running the company. Every raise, every promotion, every bit of feedback you've received. That was based on your actual performance, or lack of it. I let that sink in for a beat. And yes, that includes all the times you took credit for other people's work." Her face turned beet red. That had always been Chloe Bennet's thing, taking someone else's idea and repackaging it as her own. She did it when we were kids and apparently never grew out of it. "You're making this up," my dad snapped, his voice hoarse and defensive. "Emily Carter? She can't even decide what shoes to wear half the time." That old sting hit me for a second, but I didn't flinch. I was done pretending to be less. "Want to see my investment portfolio, Dad? Or maybe the company's earnings reports? I'm pretty sure Aunt Trish has already pulled up a few articles." Sure enough, Aunt Trish was staring at her phone, her face ghost white. "Dalton Enterprises valued at, oh my God," she muttered. Why Mom finally found her voice again. "But, why wouldn't you tell us? Why hide it?" I looked around at the people who had dismissed me for most of my adult life. People who treated me like some kind of cautionary tale just because I didn't flaunt my achievements. "Would you have even believed me?" I asked quietly. "When I left Goldstein and Marsh to start my own firm, you told everyone I got fired. When I downsized to save for investments, you said I was broke. When I spent months working late nights, you assumed I had no life." Nathan Reed shifted where he stood, clearly starting to realize he was witnessing a deeply personal storm he probably wasn't meant to be caught in. "Maybe I should head out," he offered. "No," I said firmly. "Stay. We're already knee-deep in truth, might as well wade all the way through." I turned back to my family and let the rest out. I stayed quiet about my success because I wanted to do it on my terms, without having to navigate your expectations or constant questions. And honestly, the way you treated me when you thought I was just an assistant told me everything I needed to know about how you really see people. Chloe Bennet's husband, Tyler, who'd been standing off to the side trying to stay invisible, suddenly blurted out, "Wait, if you're the CEO, then that means," his voice just kind of fizzled out as the pieces started clicking together in his head. "Yup," I said, meeting his stunned eyes. I'm the one who shot down your request for that private office last month. We couldn't justify a corner suite for someone managing middle-tier operations. The relatives around us cracked up with badly hidden laughter. Chloe Bennett went scarlet. I'm guessing that Morgan thing you mentioned was about the upcoming merger? I asked. That's when Uncle Ray, our family's go-to legal expert, couldn't resist jumping in. Is that the merger with Helix Tech? The vultures were circling already, catching the scent of money. That's confidential, I replied smoothly, not missing a beat. Just like the Rays Chloe Bennett's been parading around about. Yeah, that's not happening either. You can't do that. Chloe Bennett snapped, her voice shaking. That's discrimination. No, it's accountability, I said evenly. Your last 3 campaigns went over budget. Your department's turnover rate is the worst in the entire company. And that marketing pitch you presented last week? Nearly identical to a campaign our competitors used last year. I gave her a cool, tight-lipped smile. This isn't the family kitchen table, Chloe. I'm your boss. And in my company, promotions are earned, not handed out based on who shares your last name. Mom collapsed into a patio chair like she was starring in some melodramatic stage play, waving her hand at her face. All this time, all those things we said, yup, I cut in. All those times you said I was wasting my life. Every holiday when you stuck me at the kids' table because I hadn't accomplished enough to sit with the adults. Every backhanded comment about my thrift store dresses, my second-hand car, or how sad my little apartment looked. I ran my hands down the front of my dress from Target and stood up straighter. I remember every single one of them. The air thickened with the weight of everything that had just unraveled. My dad looked like he'd aged a decade in 10 minutes. Chloe Bennett stared down at her designer heels, probably wondering how many more installments she had left to pay them off. Nathan Reed cleared his throat gently. Just so you know, he said, your daughter's running one of the most admired companies in our field. Employee satisfaction is the highest in the sector. Profit margins are outstanding. And your company culture? It's being studied at Wharton. Speaking of business, I said, pulling a plain white envelope from my handbag, I've got something for you, Dad. His hands trembled slightly as he took it. Inside was a property deed, the title to this very backyard. The place where I'd been treated like an afterthought at every family function. I know the mortgage has been wearing you down, I said softly. It's taken care of now. Think of it as a return on investment, for all the belief you didn't put in me. Aunt Trish choked on her wine. Uncle Martin dropped his phone. And Chloe Bennett? She looked ready to hit the grass. For real this time. Turning back to Nathan Reed, I switched into the tone I used in boardrooms and executive summits. Now, about the Montrose deal, dinner? I know a place. One that, thankfully, none of my relatives own. We started walking toward his Tesla, leaving the stunned silence of my family behind. Just as we reached the car, I heard my mom's tiny voice float across the yard. But, what about the barbecue? I looked back one last time. Paper plates scattered. Potato salad untouched. My relatives frozen like someone had hit pause. I think we're done here, I said. I've got a business to run. I smiled, a real one this time. One full of everything I'd hidden for way too long. Oh, and Chloe? Don't be late to the company meeting next week. We'll be rolling out some leadership changes. The ride away was quiet at first, the car humming softly under us. Then Nathan Reed spoke. I'm really sorry I dropped that on them like that. I didn't know they were in the dark. I laughed, feeling the tension drain from my shoulders. Don't be sorry. Sometimes the truth needs to crash the party, whether we're ready or not. You gonna be all right? He asked, glancing over at me. I thought about all the years I'd spent playing it small just to make other people comfortable. About all the quiet victories, the swallowed words, the moments I chose peace over pride. And then I looked ahead, watching my family's house disappear in the rearview mirror. You know what? I said. I've never been better. I've never been better. The following week, I walked into Thompson Industries not in one of my usual understated blouses, but in a sharp navy power suit. Heels clicking confidently against the polished floor, I felt every pair of eyes on me. People who used to pass me in the halls without a second glance were suddenly whispering, double-taking, piecing things together. The quiet woman they'd overlooked wasn't just another employee anymore. Chloe Bennett stood stiffly outside my office, her freshly printed ID badge clipped to her blazer, the one for our smaller branch office across town. A reassignment, not a demotion. At least that's how I'd phrased it. But let's be honest, sometimes leadership meant doing what was necessary, not what was easy. Once inside, I slid behind my desk, and opened the drawer where a photo used to live. It was the one I'd kept hidden for years. An old family picture with a younger version of me standing just a little apart, already learning to shrink myself to fit their expectations. That I pulled it out of the frame and fed it into the shredder. Then I flipped open my laptop, the same way I had every morning for the past 3 years, running strategy meetings, closing deals, guiding a company that had grown into something I was damn proud of. The secretary I'd been pretending to be wasn't coming back. She'd done her part, the CEO I'd always been finally had room to breathe. And somewhere across town, my family was still probably sitting around in stunned silence, trying to reconcile the woman they dismissed with the empire she built. But I didn't need their validation anymore. Truth was, I'd stopped chasing it the moment I signed the paperwork for my first company. They were just catching up now. Success, I had learned, didn't need applause. It just needed conviction. And sometimes, sure, a dramatic reveal at a backyard barbecue. The weeks that followed were a mix of awkward family fallout and corporate realignment. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Suddenly I was everyone's favorite cousin. Long-lost relatives remembered our special bond, and had brilliant business ideas to pitch. Aunt Trish wanted to loop me in on her son's app. Uncle Martin offered to audit our legal contracts. Even Mom's bridge club started showing up at our front desk, insisting they were lifelong friends of the family. I told security to turn them all away. The most unexpected shift, though, was my parents. My mom began dropping by unannounced, arms full of Tupperware and emotional guilt. "I brought you lunch, sweetheart," she'd say, placing a chicken sandwich on my desk like it could undo decades. "I still don't understand why you felt like you had to keep all this from us." She'd even brought framed family photos to warm up the office. I tossed them in the trash the minute she left. "Really, Mom?" I asked one afternoon. "Remember my college graduation? Chloe Bennett made Dean's List and got a car. I finished a business degree and got a lecture about finding a husband." She flinched, finally showing some shame. "We just wanted what was best for you." "No," I corrected, "you wanted what looked best to everyone else." Dad took a different route, newspaper clippings. He started mailing them to the office with handwritten notes in the margins. "Emily Carter's company. My daughter did this, from the same man who once told me I wasn't cut out to lead a bake sale." Chloe Bennett's fallout was harder. After her reassignment, she filed a formal complaint with HR, claiming family-based discrimination. What she didn't know was that HR had no idea we were related, and what they found during their investigation wasn't in her favor: fabricated timesheets. Personal expenses run through company accounts. Repeatedly taking credit for her team's work. It was all documented. I could have fired her on the spot, but I offered her a choice: walk away quietly with a decent reference or get publicly terminated with cause. She came into my office the next morning for one last act. "You're ruining my life," she shrieked, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "Everything I've done for this company." I stayed calm. "You mean like when you took credit for the Johnson campaign your assistant built from scratch? Or the times you padded expense reports? That's just how the business world works," she snapped. "No, Chloe Bennett," I said, sliding a folder across the desk. "That's fraud." Inside was her resignation letter, already signed by me. I'd even included a reference letter. It was more than she deserved. "I'm doing this because, despite everything, you're still my sister." Her hands trembled as she grabbed the folder. "You think you're so perfect, don't you?" she spat. "Little Miss CEO, looking down on the rest of us. I shook my head. No. I just finally stopped letting this family decide what I'm worth. She slammed the door behind her. 10 minutes later, my phone lit up with furious texts from our parents. Fix it with Chloe Bennett, they demanded. Make this right. That I didn't respond with excuses. I sent screenshots, her falsified reports, HR's findings, timestamped logs. Then I sent one final message. Would you rather I press charges instead? That was my final reply. After that, the messages from my parents and Chloe Bennett stopped cold. But the changes I made at Thompson Industries went way beyond just Chloe Bennett's exit. I overhauled the entire marketing department, promoted some of the underrated employees, and rolled out a new merit-based system for evaluations. No nepotism in my company, never again. 6 months after that barbecue bombshell, I showed up at another family gathering, Thanksgiving this time, at my parents' place. This time, I arrived in my Tesla, dressed like the CEO I was. The way people treated me? Honestly, it was both hilarious and heartbreaking. The same relatives who once ignored me now hung on every word I said. Aunt Evelyn was practically bragging to her friends about her CEO niece. Uncle Martin made sure a newspaper article about Thompson Industries was front and center on the mantle. Chloe Bennett? She skipped the event. I heard she landed a job at a smaller firm, forced to rely on her own talent since our family name no longer opened doors for her. Word is, she's doing all right now, finally having to earn her way. As dinner began, my mother tapped her glass to get everyone's attention. I'd like to make a toast, she said, voice a little shaky. To Emily Carter, who showed us all that success doesn't always look the way we expect. I raised my glass with the crowd but added my own silent thought, and to authenticity, that's what really counts. Later that night, as I was heading out, my dad caught me by the door. He looked older, a little lost. I was wrong, he admitted simply. About everything. About me? I asked, nodding as I took in his words but didn't rush to forgive. Some wounds take longer to heal than others. The next Monday, I sat in my office, going over quarterly reports, thinking about how much had changed. My assistant buzzed in, "Your mom's here again with lunch." I smiled faintly. Tell her I'm in a meeting. Business to run, after all. As I turned back to my work, I caught my reflection in the window, confident, powerful, no longer hiding behind anyone's expectations. The Secretary Act was over. Now, I was just me, a woman who learned that the best revenge isn't wealth or fame, but finally being unapologetically yourself. On my desk sat a new photo frame, not family this time, but my corporate team from our latest charity event. These were the people who truly mattered now.